Hey, how you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. Welcome to Garden Fork Radio. It's eclectic DIY. It's me, Eric, and my friends talking about what we hope you'll find to be interesting things. Today, I'm here by myself, which can be good and also bad, because if I don't have anyone to bounce off of, you have to listen to me just kind of ramble on. So yeah, stick around if you like and tell me what you think. I wanted to talk about newsletters and what other people are doing, newsletters that I like. And then I wanted to talk about painting my bathroom, which is so exciting. And I just kind of wanted to talk about the elephant in the room, what my friend Scott Monty called the dystopian soap opera that is happening right now in the United States. Is I get a summary of what's going on in the country from the New York Times every morning. I'm a subscriber to their app, and I read that, and then I do what I can to try and make the world a better place. And that's my suggestion to you as well. Please don't sit there and doom scroll on Facebook or X or whatever, or watching one of the news channels all day. There are things going on. There are things we can all do to help change what's going on and make it better for everybody. But sitting there watching the TV all day or looking at your phone all day is not going to solve that. But I just wanted to let you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There will be an end to February. For some reason, everyone trash talks January and likes February better. Actually, Austin Kleon, who's one of the newsletter people I wanted to talk about today, says, he's quoting from Kevin Kylene, "February is the worst month of the year, but it's an honest month. It's a month that doesn't hold up life any better than it really is." And then on Scott Monty's newsletter, Scott Monty was the head of social media at Ford Motor when he rolled out one of the first, I think the first big social media influencer campaigns. I don't know if you remember, if you go back with me that long, where Ford Motor gave me a Ford Fiesta to drive around for almost a year, I think. Gas and insurance paid for. And they cooked up all sorts of interesting things for us to do. And of course, blog about that or put a video about that or whatever. But he has a Substack newsletter. He's big into Sherlock Holmes. He has a Sherlock Holmes podcast, in addition to being a really successful business executive advisor, I guess. I don't know much about business, but anyway, he's a really good guy. And he says, February, the shortest month, is something of an elixir that brings relief after a toxic cocktail of January, whose ingredients include New Year's resolutions, little daylight, and what feels like 87 days in the month. February promises to treat us better with an ever-lengthening days and the last week of the month nearly visible from the first, as we find our equilibrium. And those who endure dry January find their pools once again filled with inebriants. Yeah. So, and then he goes on, during these times, especially during such times, we need a reminder to stay true to our values. So that's my thing. That's my little soapbox, and we'll move on from here, huh? I've been overthinking, researching how to make the newsletter better and more Eric and more what you want to read. I'm presuming if you subscribe to the podcast, you more than likely subscribe to the email newsletter, because I talk about it, I think, in every podcast. If you don't, it always leads off with a picture of one or two of the Labradors and a little description of what's going on in my life. I talk about recent videos, recent podcasts I've done. I will share usually a product that I have bought or a product that I think is really good that you might want to consider, it's usually a tool or something. And then some more of the world of Eric. And at the end, a little bit more, some more Amazon links of tools and stuff. And that's it. And you get that at least once a week. And I want to make that twice a week because I want to share all the stuff that I do kind of inhale during the week that I think is YouTube is garden forky, for lack of a better word. And one of them is Austin Kleon's newsletter, which is on Substack. And I'm pretty sure I'm not moving the Garden Fork newsletter over to Substack. It's not exactly my thing. I think Substack has a little too much control over, if you read their terms of service, I don't really like the terms. So, and you're also, again, putting your content on someone else's island, essentially, someone else's world. And it could be deleted for any number of reasons. What I like I use MailerLite for my email newsletter, and I own everything. I own the list, the email list. I own all the content. It is cached or archived on the MailerLite site, but I can also download it and keep it wherever I want. What I want to do is essentially make the newsletter a blog post on the website and then hit post. And in addition to it sitting on the gardenfork.tv website, which I own the content. I have a server for that. It also gets emailed out to everyone that subscribes to it. The drawback of that is being on something like Substack, there's a suggestion part of your newsletter, that Substack sends out. They send out your newsletter to people that subscribe to it. And a lot of times somewhere in there, they're going to say, hey, if you subscribe to Austin Kleon, you might like Scott Monty or one of these other people. The thing there, and I've seen some of these people really grow their email list, their readers essentially, quite well by being on there. And I don't know if I want that. That may sound counterintuitive, but the Garden Fork crew is really special, for lack of a better word. You either get Eric or you don't. And did I hit the record button? I don't really know if I hit the record. Yeah. Okay. I'm 8 minutes in. It's a good thing I hit the record button. Anyway, but that goes back to Kevin Kelly's basically 1,000 True Fans. And the newsletter is at 2,000 people right now. Garden Fork, the podcast, is at about 600 listeners. It used to be larger when iTunes redid when the Apple Podcast app redid their algorithm. I took a big hit, much like when YouTube redid their algorithm. I took a big hit. But you just got to roll with it because you're playing on their playground and they make the rules. It's their party. Anyway, I think I'm going to move to a more indie newsletter mailing service. And I'm trying to think about anyone that subscribes to the newsletter, we can have a discussion group on a site. And I was thinking about using Reddit, and I want to know what you all think about that. I know Reddit is owned by somebody else, but it's incredibly easy. It's kind of old school discussion group. People get it. With Patreon, you can create a Discord group. I did that with my patrons, and a couple of people got it right away, or they're already on Discord. I find Discord clunky if you're not really into it. And I find Reddit a lot simpler. So my thought was, if you subscribe to the newsletter, that's your entry fee into the discussion group. You don't have to be a patron. The patrons do have on the Patreon app and the email, they can ask me questions. There is a small discussion group there, but it's a little clunky. You can also have a newsletter on Patreon. You can You can sign up and start an account at Patreon and follow people for free. You don't have to give them money. And I do post some things on there that are open to the public. So if anyone, or you can have it all followers, be they paid or free followers. I think I have like 100 people that follow me, and maybe 2/3 of them are paying, and there's 1/3 that isn't, I think. Anyway, I could send out a newsletter to all those people. So if I would say, hey, you're no longer going to use MailerLite, please all sign up at Patreon to get the newsletter. But Patreon has been, it used to be whatever I put on a post using the app or the website, Patreon would email that to everyone that follows me. It just depends on which I can pick whether it goes to the paid people or everyone. The paid people get the after show, the Garden Fork Radio after show, and what I call bonus stuff like the behind the scenes. But I also just put some stuff out there for whoever wants to see it to kind of get an idea of how Patreon works. It used to be I could write 5 paragraphs or 10 paragraphs on a post with pictures and links, and Patreon would send that whole thing out by email to everyone that followed me on Patreon. They are now truncating that to, I think, 3 paragraphs, and then it says, read more in the app or read more on the website. And I guess they're trying to drive people to use the app more or log onto the website more. But I'm all about making it incredibly simple, because you're going to look, most people look at their email every day, and I show up there once a week usually. By the way, if you signed up for the email and you're not getting it, look in your promotions folder or your social folder or your commerce folder of your email app. And then if you find it there, you can click it to open it, and there should be a pull-down menu somewhere saying move to primary or primary inbox or something. So anyway, I wanted to use Patreon, but they're truncating the email now, and I really don't like it when I get something in an email that says, oh, click here to go to our site to read, or click here to go to the app to read. I'm like, I want it simple. I want it just like dirt simple. So long story short, Substack is kind of close to what I like, but there are some control issues there. And I feel very strongly about, like, Facebook is just a non-starter for me anymore. I post links to the videos and to the podcast there, but I am not active there anymore. And I don't think that will happen with Reddit. I don't think there's going to be like an algorithm-specific thing, because we're going to create a subreddit. If anyone knows how to do this, I'm curious if any of they're called email marketing services, basically what I use. If once you sign up to get the newsletter, is there a way to trigger a membership automatically in a subreddit? There's an in-between for a bunch of apps, and I can't remember the name of the thing. There's if this, then that. I wonder if I could use IFTT. Is it if this, then that? Anyway, I'm rambling here, as you can tell. 14 minutes of it. Sorry. So yeah, let's go to the newsletters I like, okay? Austin Kleon, who wrote a book called Steal Like an Artist. He is a great speaker and authors several books. And he has a newsletter called From the Desk Of. But you can also go to his website, and he has more stuff there that I think you can subscribe to by an email as well. And nonetheless, it is kind of what I like. It's like there's 10 things he wrote about, and they're all 10 things worth sharing this week is what, and very art related, some kind of art helping you be a better writer, really, is what I think it is. And I'm not trying to help you be a better writer. Nicole can do that. By the way, you can get her book. I'm blanking on the name, Nicole, and you're like, something a memoir. It's called, I'll link to it in the show notes here. Something a memoir. Anyway, there are some other platforms that you can write your email on. But as far as something like Substack, there's some others. I'm just trying to go more grassroots as possible. And what kind of tipped me to this is reading some articles, but I'm not a writer. I'm writing about YouTube or a podcast usually. And there are affiliate links in the email as well, and that can red flag sometimes. From what I've read about Substack, that can kind of flag your content. And I'm honest about it. It helps pay the bills. It's basically my revenue is probably half YouTube revenue, half affiliate income, and then maybe 15% Patreon. And I'd like to invert that, really. I'd really like to make Patreon the bigger thing, or some sort of a direct support model. But anyway, Austin Kleon, very good. If you are a business person, it's called Timeless and Timely by Scott Monty. I really like. He's just a great guy, just a straight shooter. And then Matt D'Avella, who has a very successful YouTube channel. He tries different things, like I went without sugar for 30 days, or one of his earliest ones, which he's known for, is I wore the same shirt for 30 days, I think, or 100 days or something. Or he's like, I did bicep curls every day for 30 days, stuff like this. And he is a director of photography, I think, and also a director. He directed the 2 Minimalist movies, which I think both are on Netflix now. The first one I really enjoyed, and the Minimalists themselves have a book out and their own podcast. I wonder what newsletter platform they use. That's interesting. Anyway, so do you have some newsletters besides the Garden Fork newsletter that you like? You could tell me about that. There is one called The Bitter Southerner, which is not on Substack. They have a podcast and a printed magazine. And I really don't know much about it's Southern culture specific, and I'm not from the South, but I do like it, and I have listened to some of their stuff, and I enjoy that. It's called The Bitter Southerner. If you could just go to bittersoutherner.com, and that'll show up there. Yeah. Shameless plug. If you are shopping on Amazon, you want to check out the Garden Fork Radio. Actually, the whole Garden Fork shopping page on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Amazon. Amazon.shop. Amazon.com/shop/Garden Fork. Start your shopping there. Check out the tools, practical stuff I suggest if you're looking for a specific tool or wonder how Eric does what he does. And anything else you buy during that shopping experience, we get a finder's fee for as well. I just updated with a new welder that I think is better than the FluxCore welder I own, and a couple more pieces of welding gear that I think are important. When you do FluxCore welding, you need a different nozzle tip than when you do MIG welding, and I just learned that. Surprise. I want to do more FluxCore welding because the welder is about the size of 2 shoe boxes. It's kind of heavier, but it's about the size of 2 shoe boxes. And you can plug it into any wall outlet. I used a 100-foot cord once, and you can weld outside. You don't need to carry around tanks of gas. There's a little bit of a learning curve to it compared to MIG welding. MIG welding I compare to using a hot glue gun that has sparks. But I do want to work on that more. There's a couple of videos I've been watching on YouTube about that, so I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing I wanted to talk about was I'm painting our bathroom in our Brooklyn apartment. We are lucky to have 2 bathrooms in the Brooklyn apartment. There's one with a shower, and there's one that's, I guess you call it a half bath. And in New York City, our second bathroom is 35 inches wide. That's New York. A lot of times, if they want to upgrade an apartment, they'll try and figure out where they can cram in a second bathroom. because it makes it, the rent will be higher or the sale price will be higher. Anyway, it was just this kind of dirty white. It was painted this dirty white color, maybe like a beigey white, which I didn't really like. And I wanted to warm it up. And I actually love the color orange, like a warm orange. And I decided with the camera operator's agreement, because it's kind of the bathroom I use more than she does, we picked out kind of a warm orange, and I painted the whole thing. And it was orange overload, darker than like a navel orange, but yeah, nonetheless overload. So I had to kind of claw back. And first I thought, this is just too much of a circus orange color. And then I thought, well, maybe I could leave one wall orange and leave the back wall and this other side wall white and make it like a bright white as a contrast to that. And I'm like, okay, let's do that. The only problem with that is if you've done any painting, if you paint a wall yellow or red or blue or purple, pink, if you just put white paint on it, the bottom color will bleed through, more than likely. So I had to do what's called a blocking primer. And it's called Zinsser Bin, I think it's called. You can use a shellac or bond coat one, or you can use their latex-based, water-based one. I highly suggest, unless you're doing outside work, to use the water-based. Or if you're going to like paint, you could paint outside and then bring the object inside, piece of furniture, whatever. I would not use the shellac-based one inside without a ton of ventilation and you wearing a mask. But what I bought and what I liked is they actually adopted a trick that painters have always used, is if you're needing to block the color from bleeding through, or if you want to deepen the top coat that you're going to lay on, if you want to block the coat that's underneath, you tint the white primer with a little bit of black paint. So you make a gray primer. And so this is a gray tinted primer that you can buy by the gallon or the quart. I bought a quart of it. And I laid that down, and it was actually a darker gray than I was expecting, but it certainly blocked the orange. If you really want to get into making just kind of a deeper color on your walls, first of all, wash your walls with TSP free, it's called. Don't use trisodium phosphate. It isn't the greatest thing to have on your hands. It's called TSP-free. It's made by the same company. It's like a white and box with blue and red type or something like that. And then put down a primer coat and tint the primer coat with some of the top coat color. You know, like to a gallon of paint, maybe add in 2 cups of the top color and lay that down, let it dry. I would let it dry overnight. I really am I'm a big fan of if you're doing 2 coats of paint, let the first one dry overnight, put the second coat on. But anyway, you've got this white primer that you've tinted with the top coat. Let that dry, and then put 2 more coats of the top coat, and the color will look amazing. It really does change things a lot. I've never found a paint that's 1 coat. I think maybe they have expert painters that have a fully sopping wet roller, and they're like, oh yeah, it coats in one coat. You know, the roller gets a little dry. You get some little mist spots. I always have to do a second coat because I see something I missed, but it also just deepens the color. It adds a little more robustness to it. It makes the wall much easier to clean. It makes the paint stronger. So yeah, just go with that. The other challenge we have is, because it's only 35 inches wide, is I wanted to put a mirrored cabinet, above the sink. The one that's there, the people that sold the apartment just put in a new one to sell the place, Don't get me started on that. But it's quite ugly, I think. And it's brown, and I thought, well, I could paint it white. But it's a very cheap cabinet, and I don't know if it's like actually wood that's stained, or is it fake, chip wood with brown paper on it, that looks like faux wood. but you can't have a cabinet that's very deep because the place is only 35 inches wide and there's a sink there, you know? And I thought, I'm kind of spoiling the whole video for you here, but I thought, oh, I'll just cut the wall out and I can drop a standard cabinet in about 3 inches so I could have a 6-inch cabinet and had just 3 inches sticking out. But I realized that I thought the wall was a drywall, a sheetrock wall. I thought it was added on, and it's not. It's an original wall. So it has, this one has wire mesh, which I was a little surprised at instead of wooden lath, but it has wire mesh, cementatious scratch coat, and then 2 plaster top coats. And to cut that out, to be able to set in a cabinet is just a dust nightmare. You can tape the whole thing off with plastic. The dust will still get out, and it makes a huge mess. And you've got to breathe that stuff while you're doing it, even though you have a mask on. So I went to my favorite store, IKEA, and I found a fairly shallow mirrored cabinet, and I'm putting that in tomorrow. I'm going to do the second top coat tonight of the white paint. The orange paint is all done. And then I'm going to add some shelves and maybe a second storage cabinet if I can find a shallow cabinet. I thought I saw some on IKEA there. There's just such a scarcity of storage space in apartments, as you know, especially old building apartments. Because back when these apartments were built, I mean, this is an apartment in a brownstone, but this brownstone was purpose-built to be multifamily. Our previous brownstone was built to be a one-family home, and this is not, because it's bigger. It's 5 floors instead of 3. But anyway, people did not own nearly as much clothing as they do now, and they didn't need nearly as much closet space. I mean, as you know, I wear the same thing every day, but the camera operator does have a job, you know, and has to wear different things. Plus, you've got, you know, where do you keep your paper towels? Anyway, that's my thoughts on painting. And if you have some email newsletters you like, or if you have some thoughts about, do you like Reddit? Do you think we could work with something on Reddit? There just needs to be a home for everyone to hang out on. I think that would be really beneficial for everyone. Just to kind of remind everyone that we're all out there. You're not the only one that is wanting to, you know, hack together a pizza oven out of a Weber grill, you know. All right, let me know your thoughts. It's radio@gardenfork.tv. All right? Go out and do cool stuff. Make it a great day. I'll see you. Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media, LLC in Brooklyn, New York. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.